Ninja Gaiden is what some would consider a classic NES series, and even though my first exposure to Ninja Gaiden was in the arcade, I must agree. Ninja Gaiden is mostly known for its relentless difficulty and awesome cutscenes between each act. And in all honesty, I don't really see what the big deal is about the cutscenes. I mean, Pac-Man did the same thing, and people don't make a big deal about that. I'm just kidding about the Pac-Man thing. So on the NES, there were 3 Ninja Gaiden games released: Ninja Gaiden, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, and Ninja Gaiden 3, The Ancient Ship of Doom. There was never a Ninja Gaiden 4, so anybody hoping for a Ninja Gaiden on the Super NES would be disappointed. But there was another Ninja Gaiden game released on the Super NES that's a pretty damn good alternative, if you ask me. Ninja Gaiden Trilogy. Yeah, basically what it is it's all 3 NES Ninja Gaiden games released on one Super Nintendo cart, all in 16-bit glory. Well, not exactly. The graphics are slightly improved over the NES counterpart, but the audio is much better. All the NES music has been retooled for this game, and it sounds great in my opinion. The only question I have is, why are the games basically 8-bit? I mean, look at Super Mario All-Stars. There were 4 games on one cart in that game, and they're all 16-bit. Maybe they wanted to stay true to the original, I don't really know, but if that's the case, I guess I can understand. So let's talk about the games themselves. Like I said before, my first exposure to Ninja Gaiden was in the arcade, so this version of the game is still pretty new to me, but I gotta say, it's a great game, especially for the time. I'm especially a fan of wall jumping. It's pretty cool. It controls well, but I think it'd be better if instead of pressing A to jump and B to attack, it was B to jump and Y to attack. It works fine the way it is, but it does take a little getting used to. The graphics are good enough, not great, and they have some nice coloring, and the enemies are nice and varied. I also like how you break items on screen to unlock upgrades, ammo, items, kind of like in Castlevania. But holy cow, is this game tough. I mean, the first couple of levels are a challenge, but they're not ridiculous. But once you get deeper in the game, the challenge is disgusting. But I guess that's what Ninja Gaiden is known for, so I guess I should have expected it. A few gripes I have are, while wall jumping is cool, I really wish you could climb the walls as well. Sometimes I'm in a position where wall jumping just won't work, but if I could wall climb, I'd be fine. There's some walls with ladders on them that you're allowed to climb, but once you reach the top, you're pretty much stuck. What you have to do is you have to jump off the ladder, or wall, to another platform, and then back to the top of the ladder to reach the top. It can be very tedious, and I'm not a fan of it. And my last complaint is the respawning enemies. It can become ridiculous in some places, and you'll move, kill an enemy, move back, and he comes running right back at you. Usually you can get out of it pretty easily, but not always, and it does not help that every time you're hit, you get knocked back. Also like in Castlevania. Overall, Ninja Gaiden is a pretty fun game, worthy of the title of NES Classic. Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, is much of the same. The graphics might be slightly better, but not much of a noticeable difference, and the first thing I notice is that you can now scale walls without having to jump from wall to wall, which is a very welcome addition. Still, once you're at the top of the wall, you can't just crawl to the platform. You still have to jump to another wall and then jump back and reach the top. It's a slight improvement over the first game, but it's still just annoying. The cutscenes are also improved over the first. There are now backgrounds along with the characters sometimes, instead of just a black screen. And one thing hasn't changed much, it's the difficulty. In fact, this one might even be slightly harder than the first. A level that really irritated me was 2-2. There's wind in the level, and when you jump with the wind against you, your jump is very short. But when you jump with the wind behind you, it causes your jump to be much longer. The wind alone is what makes this level difficult, because without the wind, it'd be pretty easily. Thankfully, it's rather short. The power-ups in this game are a lot better. You still have the standard Ninja Star, Flames, and so on, but one I really liked was the second Ninja power-up. It creates a second Ninja to fight along with you. It doesn't take damage either. However, it is slightly limited because it only moves when you do. In fact, it basically mirrors your every move, and you can't just have one at a time. You can have 2 is the maximum I've got. If you can have more, I don't know. The game, Ninja Gaiden 2, is much like the first game, with some added difficulty and features, but I think overall, I still enjoyed the first one more. So Ninja Gaiden 3, The Ancient Ship of Doom, is the only one I don't have on the NES, so playing it on the Ninja Gaiden Trilogy is my first experience, and guess what? It's my favorite. I just think overall it's a more polished game, and finally you can scale walls without jumping, and you can easily get on the top of the platforms. It only took 2 sequels for that to happen, and I'm not sure why. And the graphics look great, and again, better than previous games. There are a few upgrades, but my favorite is the sword upgrade. It makes your sword reach further and do more damage, a lot like the whip upgrade in Castlevania, although it reminds me of the Strider weapon also. I also like how the objects that you break flash with what's inside them before you break it open, and you don't accidentally get a weapon you don't want. And, the controls feel tighter than ever. Overall, Ninja Gaiden 3 is my favorite in the series, an excellent game. Ninja Gaiden Trilogy is a great game on the Super Nintendo. It's a classic collection of all 3 NES games. And I have mentioned this before, but I think I have to mention it again. Ninja Gaiden is extremely similar to Castlevania on the NES. But instead of ninjas, there's vampires. I mean, that's the only difference between. I mean, look at it. There's 3 games in each series on the NES. You get knocked back when you're hit. You break open items to gain points, ammo, and upgrades, and the top of the screen is nearly identical. Kinda weird considering Castlevania was made by Konami and this game by Tecmo, but I will say Ninja Gaiden is probably the more difficult of the 2 games, and that's saying something because Castlevania is tough. Regardless, Ninja Gaiden Trilogy is a welcome addition to the Super NES library. It's a great way to play a classic NES series, and it even has a password system so you can pick up right where you left off. The biggest problem, however, is the price. Ninja Gaiden Trilogy is a fairly rare game for the Super Nintendo, and I was lucky enough to find mine at a garage sale. But if you ever have the chance to get this game, I would certainly recommend it. I'll give Ninja Gaiden Trilogy an 8.5 out of 10.